Merry Christmas, everyone. I've got a story of the ghost of Christmas past. It's something that occurred in 2007, just a few days before Christmas. I had lost my dad around the 19th, and he was buried on the 21st. And I remember coming home from the funeral, and, there was family here, and after everybody left, I had just a few hours to go before I had to get up and go to work. So I had to lay down for a nap. And I remember everyone was gone. It was cold. I turned the lights down and I went in and laid down. It was going to take a nap and then get up in a few hours and, like I said, go to work. I left my bedroom door open. And it was just me. I could hear cars going by outside, and I could hear the heater on. And sounds just seemed to echo. The finalization of losing my dad and it being Christmas was really hard. I think the lights I left on in the living room was the Christmas tree lights, and I think I had the TV on mute. And I was laying there trying to sleep, or trying to get to sleep, and I heard this noise. And it was loud. It was kind of like a boom and then another noise that wasn't as loud as the first one. And it sounded close. It was kind of scary. It sounded like it was in the house. And it was just me in the house. There was no one else. There were no animals at the time. And so I tried to logically explain it and think, well, maybe something on the front porch shifted and fell. But I thought, I shouldn't hear it that loud if it's on the front porch and outside. So needless to say, I was kind of alarmed. And I just laid there. I was kind of too scared to get up and see what it was. I just wanted to listen for more noises, and there was no more. And I thought, well, I don't know what that was, but I've got to get to some sleep, and so I went off to sleep. A couple hours later, I woke up. Alarm went off. I had to get up to get ready to go to work. I was doing hospice care with the lady, and she had terminal cancer. So I had to get up, kind of wipe the cobwebs from my brain and get ready for work. And I come into the kitchen to get me something to drink. And I looked down, and I saw that there was a sack of fruit that I had gotten the weekend before with the family of another lady that I'd sat with the weekend before had given me a sack of oranges and apples, and they were sitting on the bar. And they'd been sitting there since I brought them in the weekend before, which was just a couple of days before Dad died. He was excited. I remember when I brought him in, he was excited to, that I had fruit. He said, well, I'll go get some nuts before Christmas. And I said, okay. I knew pecans and walnuts, that was his thing. It wasn't mine, but it was his thing. So if that's what he wanted, I was happy for him. But when I went in to get my drink and noticed that the sack of fruit that I had bought and put on the bar up against the the little shelf on the bar, it had shifted and fallen over. There was fruit in the floor. And I thought how weird that was, because it had been there for over, for a week. And there had been people in and out of here, family and neighbors and friends, and bringing stuff, and it had not moved. It had not been touched. But for all of a sudden, a week after it sits there, it to shift and fall over, it was kind of a trip. So I picked up the fruit in the kitchen floor, put it back in the bag, put the bag up against the side of the bar again, and started into the living room to turn on a light, and there was an orange and an apple sitting right in front of my dad's chair. His recliner was on the north side of the living room. And where the orange and apple was where his feet would be if he was sitting in his chair. And to the left of that was the sack of pecans that he had went into town and bought at Albertsons the day he died. He died that night, and earlier that day, early morning, he had gone into Albertsons and bought the pecans. So they were right there to the left of his chair in front of his desk. And to the right, just less than a foot over, was the apple and orange. And I thought, what in the hell? How can fruit that's been sitting in a bag for a week shift, fall over, bounce off a cooler, because there was a cooler on the floor up against the back of the bar, and then those two of the pieces of fruit bounce the opposite direction 6 feet and then over 2 feet. And I thought, physics doesn't work that way. Once something starts momentum going one direction, it'll continue that direction unless it meets resistance. And yeah, it might bounce back a little, but not 6 feet and over 2. And so when I saw that, I stood there and looked at it, and I went, yeah, I don't know what to make of that. I knew there were nobody else in here. I changed the locks after the funeral, and I knew that there was no animals in here that could have done that. But somehow that sack of fruit fell towards the west, bounced off the contents, some of it, bounced off the cooler, and then bounced to the east 6 feet, and then to the north over 2 feet, to the north. And I thought, yeah, that's not the way physics works. I mean, I'm no Einstein or scientist, but yeah, I know better than that. So I just stood there and looked at the fruit at the foot of Dad's chair and shook my head, and I thought, yeah, I can't deal with this right now. I got to go to work. So I went in and washed my face and went to work. All night long, I kept thinking about that, trying to figure out what the hell had happened and how it could have happened or why. Couldn't figure it out. Well, the next day when I get off work, I come home. I go in the kitchen to get me something to drink, and I see the coffee maker on the counter. This coffee maker was a gift to my dad's. Now, for years, he had complained about every coffee maker he ever had there was a problem with. He didn't like the way it tasted, or didn't like the way it made, or didn't like the way you poured the water in it, or the lid wasn't right, or something. There was always an issue. He always tried to find. He was on the search, the quest, for the perfect coffee maker. And no matter where he looked, no matter how cheap one was at a yard sale, he'd get it and try and always have a problem with it. He couldn't figure it out. Couldn't find the right one. Well, then that put me on a quest, of course, to find him the right one. His birthday was only a few days after Christmas, so he really never got much of a birthday. So my goal was to get him one for his birthday. Or Christmas, whichever. But I wanted him to have a birthday gift and a Christmas gift under the tree. Well, probably a week and a half or so before Christmas, maybe closer to 2 weeks, I found the right coffee maker. I mean, it even looked nice. It was black and it had this really cool blue light, which I love blue. Cool blue light that lit it up, and you could program it. It would make coffee in the morning where you didn't even have to touch it. You know, that morning you could just smell it, and you could hit the button to just have it simmer and stay warm, but not, hot. And it was nifty. And I think when I bought it, I looked at it, I researched them, I thought I found the perfect one. So I get it, I wrap it, put it under the tree. Well, we're sitting there, and he keeps looking at the tree because I put lights on it and his gifts under it. And he looks at me and looks at the tree, looks over at the TV, looks back at the tree again, he looks at me and he grins. And I thought, something just told me. I mean, literally an inner voice just said, let him open that coffee maker now. So I said, Daddy, would you like to open one of your gifts now? He goes, oh no, I'll wait till Christmas. I said, I really think you should open this one now. I think you would enjoy it. And he said, really? I said, yeah. So I gave it to him and he opened it. His eyes got big and he read all the stuff on the box and opened it and said, well, that looks like a dandy. He went in and washed it out and set it up. Well, he and I together, I got the instructions out. We figured out how to program it for the next morning. Whatever time he normally got up, we set it to 15 minutes before, so it would be ready when he woke up. He wouldn't have to do anything but pour a cup. Well, he loved it. Next morning came around. He said he was excited. He'd get up, use the bathroom, look over at it in the kitchen to see if it was on yet, then go back to bed. So it was something that excited him. And then he said he wasn't even fully awake yet and he smelled coffee. He knew it was working. So he came in, looked at it, got a cup and just sat and enjoyed it. And he bragged about that coffee maker. He was so proud of that coffee maker. He even went into the cafe in Crum where he hung out. Almost every day he'd be in there, and he was bragging about it. I think they told me he said that it does everything but drive the truck, and it probably could be programmed to do that too. He was so proud of the coffee maker. So, the day after we buried him, after working all night, hearing that noise, seeing the fruit in front of his chair, I went in to get me something to drink. And there's the coffee maker. And I just couldn't see it. It broke me up. It broke my heart. I kept flashing back to the joy on his face, how happy he was to have it, how proud I was that he was happy. So I unplugged it, cleaned it, put it under the counter. Still had the box, put it in the box, put it under the counter. And for a couple of days, I kept getting a gnawing feeling at me that I ought to be ashamed for putting that away because I'll never use it, and I spent that kind of money on something that I'm putting away under the counter. So I thought, well, what can I do with this? I can't look at it. It upset me too much. And I'm not a coffee drinker, so I don't really want to keep it. And I thought about the cafe, downtown Crum, and his buddies down there that really enjoyed him, that owned the cafe. And so I went and actually left here and drove into town. And I said, I've got a question for you guys. I said, you remember the coffee maker that I gave Dad before he died? And they said, oh yeah, he loved that thing. And I said, well, I can't look at it. It makes me sick. It just rips my heart. And I feel guilty for putting it away, because I can't look at it. And I said, I don't think he's happy about that, putting it away. I said, I think he would be happy with me giving it to you. So will you use it here in the cafe in his memory? And if you ever sell the cafe, take it with you. He would want that. He wouldn't want me to use it and be upset about it or have it out and it rip me up every time I look at it. He wouldn't want me to put it under the counter and not use it because he loved it. And they said, yeah, we would be honored to have a part of Jack here with us. And I said, thank you. So I came home. I got it. I took it back to them. They fixed me something to eat. I was sitting there eating. And I said, you want to hear something weird? The night we buried Dad after the funeral, I told him about the sack of fruit, how it shifted somehow after sitting there for a week and not moving, but it shifted, fell towards the west, bounced off a cooler lid that was sitting under it, and then back to the east 6 feet, and then over to the north 2 feet. I said, now, I'm no Einstein, but physics doesn't work that way. I don't know what happened, how that happened. But there was an orange and an apple sitting in front of my dad's chair, right beside the sack of pecans he had bought the morning he died, just hours before he died. And they started laughing. Well, needless to say, I wasn't in the mood for laughter. I was not in a good frame of mind. And I said, what are you laughing about? I don't understand. And they said, that was your dad telling you Merry Christmas. And I said, explain. I don't understand. And they said, didn't he ever tell you? And they explained to me, they told me what he had told them a couple of weeks before he died. Or a couple of weeks earlier. They said that he had said people that were born in the 30s, they knew what hardship and being poor was all about. And sometimes all they got is fruit and nuts for Christmas. And so whenever there was oranges and apples and nuts, then they knew it was Christmas. And they were really grateful. And that was like the magic thing for them. And I said, that explains a lot. When I was growing up, he always made sure, right before Christmas, we got a fruit basket, oranges and apples, and when I say basket, Mom would get the basket out, or a big bowl, and he'd put fruit in it, and then he would give her money to go to the nut house, or he would go to the nut house, which was a store, they called it the nut house, and you could buy all kinds of nuts by the pound or half pound. And that store hadn't been open in many years now. But that morning, just hours before he died, probably about 12 hours before he died, he went into town and went and got nuts because he knew he already had fruit here because I'd brought it home the weekend before. So for him, that was Christmas. And they explained to me the orange and apple in front of his chair was his way of wishing me Merry Christmas. I have followed suit in that tradition. as much as I could. And since then, I've given nuts and fruit to people. I've thought about the older people that were either neighbors or friends or parents of friends that are local. And I've got little sacks. And I put an apple, an orange, or 2 oranges, and a banana, and lots of walnuts and almonds and some other little candies and cookies in it, and a card. And I've given it to them. A lot of people don't know about that tradition, about the old folks, the people that are in their 80s or 90s now. But to them, if they had oranges and apples and nuts, it was Christmas. That was the magic of Christmas. I remember before Dad passed, he and I were talking about ghosts and spirits and such. I had been a ghost hunter for many, many years. And I told him, if it's possible, visit me. You'll always be welcome here. I won't be freaked out. I might not realize it's you, but please come. Give me a sign. Well, I guess he gave me a sign. He wished me Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, everyone. Remember those who are no longer physically with us, because in spirit they are. I guarantee it. Be safe, and thanks for listening.